We're going to talk here about bookmarks and URLs and the websites that they lead to and how to get to passwords and how to navigate around some of them. I have a gazillion bookmarks out there and should probably weed them out at some point, but what I've tried to do here is to highlight the ones that I think are critical to know about and that I use regularly, mainly for financial and medical kinds of purposes. So Chrome is my browser of choice, and that's what I have open here. The Chrome icon is at the bottom of my screen. And I have, for my bookmarks as noted here, I've configured Chrome to save the URL website name, that's what the bookmark does, but also then the username and ID, which underlies that, and probably most importantly, the password. That's not something that happens by default, but you can set Chrome up so it will do that. And most websites will obey this convention. If you put in the URL, whatever the website, whatever.com or .org, it will drop in the password. Now, there are a few exceptions that don't play nicely with this rule, and I've tried to highlight them. Now, some websites, as we'll see, have, as I note here, 2 or maybe even more username password combinations. An example would be US Bank. It has the same URL, but we have more than one user ID and password combination because there's one for you and me and then one for you and your mom. And if you want to view all of the URLs, and I probably should make that plural there, users' passwords that have been saved by navigating in Chrome, you can go to these upper 3 dots here, you see in the upper right of the browser. Open that up, go to Settings, and then Passwords. And you'll see that it lists them all out. Now this order is a little bit cryptic, and for whatever reason they kind of truncate them here. So, but we'll get to, there's a way to get to that in a moment here. So you can view the password, for example, of, I'm trying to think of one that you might look at. Well, like for instance here, my Bluehost, that's my hosting company, and I think I mentioned that in the credit card video. So if you want to know the password for that, you can click on the eyeball icon, and to get there you have to put in your Microsoft PIN number, which is and I call it password, but it's really a PIN, and you can see there it's 0G1, etc. Now if you wanted to view all of the all these URLs, IDs, and passwords in a CSV, comma separated value format, on the passwords page that you see here, click on, there's another 3 dots, the one here with more actions. You can click on that and it will give you a choice to export the passwords. And it'll just say, just a warning message, go ahead and export, and then it will one more time ask you for the 2734, and it comes up in that same kind of CSV format. I probably would save it to my temp folder, which is sort of my junk folder that I throw stuff in, and then eventually, every other month or so clear it out. Happens to be one here already. If we go in and look at that folder, that's the one that was just saved. I can open it up. Remember, CSV is really a text file, but it's read by Excel. And if I open up the columns, you can see then really the name and the URL are the same. It's just that the name strips off all this HTTPS stuff there and shrinks it to the kind of the core website ID, and then this is the actual, sometimes it's a few levels down. And over here is the user ID and the password. So let's go on here. You can search for any bookmark by clicking on bookmarks on the toolbar and typing in a keyword. In other words, if we go back to, say, the home page here. Okay, so this little button here, bookmarks, say if I wanted to know where do I have the health, if I didn't know the menu structure of, or the folder structure over here, and I wanted to find health partners, well, you just have to type it in correctly, but you can see those come out like so. And this is probably the top one I could get rid of. That looks like it's just an information site. But the one below is the Real Health Partners account, and that's one I'll highlight here in a few minutes. And you can click on that; it'll open up like so. So among the bookmarks, starting number 4 here in the outline, that are most important, you can see at the top, I have a handful that I keep right at the very top on the toolbar, as they call it. So here's the U.S. Bank icon. I mentioned this on at least one of the other videos. It had some verbiage in there which I just erased because the U.S. Bank icon is very obvious, and plus as soon as you highlight it, as you can see there, it actually shows the URL for it. So I'll click on that, and this is one I just mentioned where there are actually 2 user IDs. So here it's coming up with yours, which accesses your mom's, versus the one for us. And you notice that dot underneath, it's dropping in the password, and it is dropping in the correct password. So I can go there, it'll come up, life is good. Next one really is more of concern to me, but at some point when if I predecease you, you'd probably want to shut this down because you don't want all these websites sitting out there that I had for my own purposes. So I'll go back to home. Although I could go there directly. This is Bluehost. This is the hosting company, and it will come up with. And here there's only one user ID and password, and they are correct. And again, if you went back to that CSV file I mentioned earlier, that listing, you'd see what that actually is. LinkedIn Learning, I put this out here because it used to be called lynda.com, then it was bought by LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has been bought by Microsoft. And I mentioned it because it's a really good site for online learning. Like if you really wanted to get up to speed on, take an example of, you want to take a basic Excel class. Well, this is a perfect place to do it. Now, this one is an oddball in that it, for some reason, doesn't come up. It's expecting a user ID, and the reason it's a little goofy is this is actually something we don't pay for directly. We pay for it as taxpayers because the next URL or bookmark I mentioned is LinkedIn Learning, which is owned by, or it started out as a separate entity, lynda.com, was bought by LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has now been bought by Microsoft. It's a really outstanding online learning platform. I mentioned it maybe because it's a place that you could get some Excel training. The web. I have it right here on the. As you can see the toolbar up top. This is one of those websites that doesn't open automatically for some reason. Chrome seems to want to drop in place my email. That's not correct. So because we access it through Hennepin County Library, it's a freebie in terms of county makes it available to us. And I have to put in a PIN number, which is mentioned up there. It's the last 4 digits of my old cell phone number. And I've taken a number of classes here, mostly in the music composition software for Finale and Sibelius, also for the audio engineering software and Audacity, and I've used it to brush up on skills, more advanced topics in Excel that I've struggled with. So, for instance, you can just do a search on Excel, it'll come up with a wealth of different programs, but they're pretty well labeled in terms of identifying. Something like this would be obviously be a good place to start. Essential training. It's brand new. As I say, the instructors I found are uniformly good. The editing is very tight, and they include, in many cases, examples, classroom exercises to do that you can download, try on your own, and then come back online and check out the answers. The next link is for Google. I mentioned this in the credit card video. To get there, it's not actually on the toolbar, but it's up here where my face is, and you can go to manage your Google account and then go down here to payments and subscriptions. And there's two things I'm subscribing to currently. One is Google One, which is the Google Drive that allows me to, I got the 200 gigabytes of storage for upload. And I'm not using it now, but I'm probably going to go back to it because I had cut over to OneDrive. I think I mentioned that in the other video, and it has not proved satisfactory. I also subscribe to YouTube Premium, which allows us to watch YouTube without the advertisements. And then the last one here, I had forgotten earlier, but I plugged it in, is Amazon. So that's also on the toolbar right here with their little logo. I happened to be on it a few minutes ago before the video started, so it's picking up that I'm still out there. I want to mention that under accounts and lists, if you go down to memberships and subscriptions, that will show what I am or we are currently members of, such as Amazon Prime and when that renews, as well as HBO. And we signed up for that because we want to watch the Woody Allen, Mia Farrow documentary, but I also now ended it, so as you can see it ends. And you can, if you want to start up or end it, you can do here, but you can also start it up right from the tablet. Okay, so that's everything that's really important on the toolbar. The other stuff there, like my high school reunion 50th website, not important. So the next group is under this menu or folder structure of bookmarks, finance, and this list you see right here is pretty much should be verbatim what you see over here. And I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll just cherry pick a few of them that are typical. So for instance, American Family, that's our insurance company. This one behaves normally in terms of it will give us a choice. Now that's Teddy's. It comes in with him automatically, but then we could just as well go to us. And if you go to us, their website's very clean, I think straightforward. So if you wanted to look and see what your bill is, or if you wanted to get to reprint an insurance card, you can do all that. Very straightforward. Chase Bank is our mortgage. In the past, I could use that to go to get their 1098 form for taxes, but as I mentioned in the tax video, that's not relevant anymore. Fidelity, IBM, and Fidelity for Parable. Let's look at the one for Parable. And here there are two different user IDs. One is for us and one is for your mother. And this is a little different than Thrivent was. You and I can see both of our accounts on this one. So if we go over here, log in. Now their website, it takes a little navigating, futzing around here because it's not the most user-friendly thing, but eventually you can find what you want. So for instance, tax forms and information. If I wanted to reprint the 1099-R, this is, I am assuming, where I would find it. And of course it isn't obvious that that's there, but chances are if I've poked around, there you go, there it is, it's just smaller print. So I could open that up and print it. And notice that, so here's your account, here's my account. And by the way, IBM Personal Pension Plan is also stored under or administered through Fidelity. So really that Fidelity IBM will bring it to this, should bring it to the same place. And if you wanted to, again, going back to looking at this one account, if this breaks down all the different transactions and balances and orders, so like stuff that's coming in and coming out and they're swapping and whatever, and I rarely look at that. The one time I do look at it is when when we've gone into these guys and we want to see what was our position at the end of the month, then I can go through old statements and capture that. But that's a nice to have. They can show that information to you as well. Looking at some of these other ones, the first service residential is important only in the sense that they do allow you to make online payments. Now we have an automatic withdrawal for our condo fee, but like for instance, they're going to send us a bill for this work on, I mentioned it here, this porch repair assessment, and luckily our porch is just fine, but that's luck of the draw. So so there's problems throughout the building. So there's a you know across the board special assessment. So if I go to that website, let's pull it up here, and it's going to come up with me here. Hopefully I can log in, and it's giving me the cookie notice, which I can ignore. No, we don't. I'm not. Nothing's due at this point because I'm caught up to date. Another thing, just at the other extreme, just like it costs $8 for these furnace filters, and what they can do, or what they'll do, is they'll put that out there as a charge. And I think they send me an email already. Also, although I can't swear to that, but I'm pretty sure they do. I mean, this whole thing is well run. It's tied to, so I can go out if I wanted to, if I get that special assessment. Down here, yeah, they show you the credit cards, but they're already tied to our bank account, so that I could just be a direct withdrawal on their part. Sprint, I don't usually have to look at unless there were some. In the olden days, there were some anomalies once in a while because we were sharing an account with Ted, and that he did some squirrely things with that occasionally showed up, but that hasn't been a problem. Samarks Pledging is a really antique website, very not pretty, but it just is where I can go if I want to. Right now, we pledge $75 a month. The next one I'm going to tease out is the Target Red Card. There are two Target websites, and the only URL I've stored is for the Red Card. So that's not the shopping site or the ordering site. It's the site you go to pay your bill. And what they do is it's a direct withdrawal on a date that they set, and I always remember they and Excel are around the 16th or 17th of the month. But they'll send an email, I don't know, a couple of weeks before that, and I thought I had to save the email, but I haven't. So, but it's a real straightforward email. But what's annoying is they don't tell you what the amount is on the email. You have to actually go out to the site, pull up the screen, and so I'll just simulate that right now. So if I've gotten the email, let's say, okay, your bill is closed for this month, so go out there. I don't know why they can't combine these in one site, but it is what it is. So here it's down there coming up, looks like correctly. So here is the Target Red Card website, and you'll notice that here it's showing a payment due date and an amount. So I have there will be a direct withdrawal from our checking account on that date for that amount. Now, if you recall from the or what's shown in the budgeting and checkbook balancing video, I plug in a placeholder amount of $50 a month for Target. Let's just filter on that. Right? So I'm filtering on Target, and you can see there $416.21, and that's no longer an estimated amount like the $50. It's now a certain amount, so it's going to be $22.94. We'll hit the checking account directly, and make sure you read these. It's really these second two lines. The top one is the current balance for the current or for what's out there currently. So that'll be, well, then they'll just keep rolling over and get a new email next month, so on. Under the rest of these ones under finance, I'm not going to spend any time on them because things like the Honeywell, IBM, US Bank pension, they're just really straightforward, and you never really need to go out there, with one exception. In other words, you're going to get the 1099-Rs each year. Those don't change. The one time that I have gone out to them, like, is, well, when we moved, Another time would be if my phone number changed. I did that when I got a new cell phone and a new cell phone number. Let's take a look at the here for health insurance. So under bookmarks, favorites, and then health insurance, blah, blah, blah. If I go to health partners, here there are actually 3 separate accounts. So if I sign in, I get a choice of you or me or your mom. And they're the ones listed here. Now, Ted is listed there, but he's not a health, well, I shouldn't say that. I guess, I think he is technically a Health Partners member, although I've never had to go loud and look at anything since on this most recent cycle since he was signed up through the state. If I look at mine, for example, there is a lot of good stuff out here. You could reprint your member card number. I needed to do that, signing you up for the COVID vaccination. It will store your appointments out there. You can look at health records, what your prescription profile is at this point, and so on. It was more useful in the past when we were itemizing deductions, because then I could go back and have an exact record of what I had paid for different kinds of services, but no more. So again, the website's going to look the same except for different content for each of the 3 of us. MetLife Dental really improved their website a lot. It was clunky as hell to begin with. Really hard to find stuff, but that's, thank goodness, changed. So if I went up to MetLife login, oh, sorry, down here, MetLife login, and you and I are both on the same account here. It's like I'm registered, but then you're a spouse or something. They don't split it out. And MetLife does actually do a pretty good job of responding to the dentists. I think they're the ones that are a little slow. It looks to me like we're still owed something by Linden Hills, but that just may be a fluke of their billing cycle. So they, if you're interested, they go into breaking down all the different, whatever treatment you've had, and maybe it's just online here. Anyway, you can look at, oh yeah, well, there's the explanation of benefits. So it goes into, again, if you wanted to drill down further for some reason to see what was involved in that particular charge, which rarely would I ever need to do. Social Security, you know, I threw that under health insurance, although that's could arguably be in the other folder, but there are different sign-ons for both of us. And they've gone to the 2-factor as well, so I think they send you a text. So there's K. Oganovic and B. Oganovic. And so there frankly isn't much reason to go out here either. So they're going to say, is that number correct for me? And I'll say yes. Next, it's going to send me a text message here, which I can look at. They make you agree to this terms of service each time. And you can then take a look at what your past payments have been and get a order a replacement card if you needed to. Go on and look at your earnings record going back time immemorial, going back to even when we were pups, you know. Vaguely interesting. You can see what the high earnings years were that we're living on at this point. And then Walgreens was the last one in this group, and their website can be used for, as I say here, it was useful for itemizing taxes last year when we had the medical deduction. So, and if that were to ever change, it could be useful again. But right now, it's mainly useful for, I use it to go online and request a refill of a prescription. And I think we are both out here, if I remember right. And for some reason, it's picking up that I'm out here and still signed on. Oh, we also have this, you know, they have this kind of chintzy rewards program. So I have $8 out there I could apply towards something. And I have the app on my phone, and I think they can pull it up at the cash register too. I'm not going to bother looking for the prescriptions because, again, that's not going to be relevant for the foreseeable future. So that is all in terms of the financials and health insurance. Folders, I mentioned the estimated taxes. I decided on the fly here to just bring that all together as a separate topic, separate video, because I think it'll make more sense to see what you do in TurboTax, and then after that's done, what you go out and do on the state and federal sites. So that's it for now.